Hello, everybody. It's Ron and Hope Unfiltered. And you know what? Par for the course. He's sipping his drink every time we open up a podcast.
I was thirsty. I just got through eating.
Oh, okay.
I did. You know what I'm disappointed in, though?
What?
Makeup never showed in my room.
And you're greasy?
I just look. Yeah, look how greasy. Look how. Where was makeup today?
Makeup. You're being funny. You don't ever we don't have anybody do our makeup.
You do put powder on me sometime, though.
Yeah, but we don't have makeup people.
Tell them what you call my forehead.
What?
Neanderthal.
Yeah, it's real like a big bone right there. It's like, yeah, like a Viking warrior.
I don't know if this day and age, this is time to bring this up. But remember that time I had to dress up like a girl I told you in high school to raise money?
And they couldn't do your eye makeup.
And they were trying to put makeup on me, and they like, you would be a horrible, horrible girl. I was like, why? I said, because your eyes are sunk back so bad, and I had this big thing right here.
Yeah, but I like that.
You said that's one of the things that was attractive to you.
Yeah, I like that chin, that chiseled jaw.
Well, over 50 years, the chisel's gone a little bit. I used to slice a ham with it, but there ain't no way.
That's a little
soft.
Yeah, you can push it.
So what are you saying?
I think you still look great.
Okay.
I mean, we've been married 33 years. We still in love?
Been married 33 years and dated 3.5. So 35 and a half years that we have now been together. And so people get to see us go back and forth at each other all day.
Yeah.
We don't.
Absolutely. Well, I told Pastor Denise in my other podcast that you were ugly to me, that you told me that I looked like I had been eating a lot of rice. She said, well, did you guard your heart and not let that get into your heart?
People don't understand. You take that and turn it on me. But Hope was olive oil when I met her. Do they remember olive oil, Popeye? And Hope was like 6 foot tall and 80 pounds.
Those were the days.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's a compliment to Hope.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, when she feels like she's got curves or things have changed in the positive direction. Coming from being such a stick and such a rail, she thinks it's curved. So Sunday she was walking past me and looked really good. And she's like, what do you think?
I did not say, what do you think?
I'm like, it looks like you've been eating some rice.
That is a lie. I did not look at you and say.
You knew I was looking at you. You knew I was looking at you.
Okay, Ron.
You knew.
Okay. You're doing this thing again, like you used to do back in the day when, listen what he would do to me.
What?
He would, don't start. I'm mad at you.
What?
And he would say stuff like, Hope, I bought you something today. And I'd be like, what? And he'd say, come outside. It'd be a boat. Or a jet ski. And he would make out like I wanted it. So it was like, not so bad that he did it.
I bought you a new lawnmower.
Anyway, Ron.
What?
I told Pastor Denise on you.
What have I got to do now? Healing the heart?
I don't know.
Because I said you ate some rice.
No, you didn't say I ate rice. You said I looked like I'd been eating a lot of rice. Okay. He did say that to me, y'all. That's mean. Anyway.
You started modeling after I said that. Sure.
Anyway, today we got to reel this in because we are talking about a very serious topic today.
Can't talk about rice no more.
No, we cannot. Because one of our most favorite humans,
most treasured people.
Yes, in the whole world is Christine Caine. And she's on here with us today, and we are going to be talking about...
And hubby Nick is treasured
Yeah,
too.
He is wonderful. Yeah. Such a great guy. We're going to be talking about their A21 ministry, their sex trafficking rescue ministry that's all over the world now. And we have had the most honorable pleasure of being able last year to go with them, to see in Greece. And so, Miss Christine, we are so happy that you made time in your schedule to be with us.
Guys, listen, I would do this anytime. I almost don't want to talk because listening to you two banter, it just makes my life. Like, I'm like, are you for real?
The comedy show.
Listen, if you could just walk with us in private, in our house, in our daily life, it's quite the show.
Baby, we have fun all the time. You got to admit.
We do have fun.
In the car and in the offices and at the house, we go at it all the time, but it's fun.
We do.
But anyway, Is this girl time? Do I need to go? Okay.
You're here.
All right. So I'm going to be here part of this too.
Absolutely. So tell the listeners, if they say, I know Christine Caine, I've heard her preach, she's a fiery preacher, but I don't know about what she does with A21. Explain what this ministry is to the listeners.
Yeah, for sure. Like, thanks, Hope. I almost need the gift of the interpretation of tongues to understand your accents. So it's like I have to really, really focus. I'm like, okay, so awesome. But, both Nick and I, 15 years ago, started a global anti-human trafficking organization. About 17 years ago, I was going to speak at a women's conference in Greece, in Thessaloniki, and which you've come there now with me.
Right.
And I was standing at the baggage claim just waiting for my bag, and I saw all of these posters of these missing women and children. And at the time, I was 40. I had just had my second child, Sophia. So, when you're 40 and you've just had another kid, you're not looking to start another ministry.
Right.
I wanted a vacation on a Greek island. I was not thinking, I'm going to start. But Nick and I were already traveling 300 days a year, building the church, evangelism all around the world. But as I was standing there was this little girl in the poster, and at the time, Catherine, my eldest, was 4. Sophia was just born. There was a little girl. She looked the same age as Catherine. So I went close, and when I went up close, this little girl's name was Sophia. I just burst out crying. And I would say that's when A21 started. That was when I went from looking at somebody else's missing child to seeing what could have been my own daughter.
I can't imagine.
And, that's the thing. So I just, I didn't know what to do. I mean, Nick and I were evangelists around the world, helping churches, and I didn't know anything about this. I went on to find out, and this is what was shocking to me, and I'm sure somebody listening to me today has no idea, but I didn't either, that there are more slaves in the world today than ever before in the history of humanity, that the fastest growing crime worldwide is the buying and selling of human beings. More than trafficking of guns or trafficking of drugs. Wow. Is trafficking of people. And there's 50 million slaves in the world today, and that's through forced labor trafficking, sex trafficking, begging, those forms of trafficking. And I realized then that I had to do something. It was like the Lord, to be truthful, I was about to preach a sermon to the women, and I was in my hotel room, and I was preparing a message out of the parable of the Good Samaritan, the story of the Good Samaritan. Mm-hmm. And I felt the Holy Spirit say to me, Christine, you think you're the Samaritan. And I was going, yes, Lord, I do. Like, we're traveling 300 days a year. We were living in Australia. I'm all around the world taking 2 kids with me, preaching the gospel. I thought the Lord was about to give me this beautiful gold star. And he said, you think you're the Samaritan? And I went, yes. And he goes, no, you're more like the Levite and the priest. They saw exactly what the Samaritans saw. All 3 of these men saw a man that was lying on the side of the road that had been beaten. But the Levite and the priest were so busy going to their next religious conference.
Wow.
Yes, that they saw the man on the side of the road as an interruption to their ministry.
Wow.
As opposed to the object of their ministry.
That'll preach.
This is happening as I'm preparing. And he said, Christine, the Samaritan was a busy man too. He was a businessman. He was on his way somewhere, but he saw this man, and the scripture says that he had compassion. And so he crossed the street and went to him. And I felt the Holy Spirit say, Christine, my church has confused sympathy with compassion. We think because we've seen a sad video and we cry that we have compassion, but that's just sympathy.
Ooh.
Compassion is never compassion until you're willing to cross the street, roll up your sleeves, and get involved. And this guy gave of his own time, his own talent, his own treasure, and he helped the man. And I felt the Holy Spirit say, you can either be like the Levite and the priest and walk straight past and go, well, I'm busy, I'm an evangelist, I'm doing too much, or you can cross the street. And I thought, I started in that moment, I'm going, but God, I don't know what to do. I live in Australia. This is Greek. But God, this is like Russian and Albanian mafia. They kill people, God, I'm a woman. But you start with all your buts And, you know, and then I figured that I needed a buttectomy. I had to get my big butt in God's face and just begin like, okay, the Lord said, did I give you a mouth? You've got the ear of the church. You can start talking about it. And then that was, you know, here we are 15 years later, 19 offices around the world in 15 countries, literally thousands of men, women, and children rescued, hundreds of traffickers in jails, and hundreds of millions of people made aware through prevention and awareness. And it came from, you know, a conviction that I couldn't walk past these girls.
Yeah. And I think that was so key for us is the awareness. And I think we talked on a bus many times while we were in Greece with you about, you know, where does the common person, you know, where do you start? What do you do? You know, everybody can't just go and arrest a man or go find a girl or get her out of a brothel or, you know, what do you do? And it's the awareness of it and the getting it in the school system and talking about it in churches. You know, you don't hear about this in churches.
No,
you know?
And the point is that we should. I mean, like, why? We are the people on the earth, the church, that believes that human beings are created in the image of God.
Yes.
We're the ones that actually believe that God created us. So we should be the ones that are most vocal to say, it is not okay to buy and sell human beings. And so our school program is called Bodies Are Not Commodities. So we can teach the world a body is not a commodity to be bought and sold. We're created in the image of God. And so, you know, the schools programs in every state in America, all through the world, they've been awesome to help educate people about that. Or we've got billboards all across the world, airports across the world, anywhere you move people, train stations, bus stations, airports, and then all of those help to awaken people. And of course, hotlines. We run the national hotline in 3 countries. We're working on a global hotline. So we are real serious about saying that we, of all people, the people of God, should be the people that are advocating. I mean, you know, God set the Israelites free out of slavery in Egypt, and he's been setting people free ever since. So we should be committed to that.
Absolutely. So what was interesting to me is when we were with you and we went to the house where you simulated what a girl would go through who was being broken, the breaking house. And that was so troubling.
That was rough.
To me.
That was rough.
That
was a day ruiner.
Yeah, it really was.
That was a day ruiner. I agree with what you said as well, just backing up a moment, about the Levite, the priest, professional. We're doing professional ministry, overlooking real ministry.
Yeah.
And because real ministry is an interruption to professional ministry, and most of the times, the real stuff is in the interruptions.
Yeah.
And I love the way you put that there. I want to agree also with Hope about my time was just opening my eyes. Because when people think of human slavery, they think of the old paintings and the old photos, and they think of chains and think of dungeons and things like that. But these people are walking around out in the streets, maybe brushing up by you, and they are in human trafficking, and you're passing by them all the time because the chains are a different kind of chains. You want to speak to that, Miss Christine?
Well, I want you to talk about because I think the general population thinks that the human trafficking is the girl who we saw on the movie Taken, where you get kidnapped. But the way you showed us was in that breaking house. It is a trick. It's girls who are looking to get out of a country who is a third world country and trying to come to America or trying to go to Greece for jobs. And they get a fake boyfriend online. And in this internet world, how easy it is to be catfished or to find someone online that you think is something, but it's really something else. And that is how you guys taught us that it happens now in the world. Talk about that.
And yeah, I'll talk about it in 2 ways. What we saw in Greece that happens all over the world, and here in America as well. It's very important for parents watching this to realize you think your kid's upstairs doing homework in their room. And we've got a whole video about this because this is one of the major forms of trafficking in America. So you know, a guy's like reaching out on TikTok or Instagram, starts making like this relationship, and then, you know, she sends a photo of herself, and then, you know, he's taking off certain clothes or whatever it might be. Then this photo gets uploaded and it gets sold. It goes on to porn sites. And then she is trapped, terrified. If my parents find out, he threatens, I'm going to kill, I know where you live. I'm going to kill your family. I come after you at school. I'm going to send this on the phone to other people. And all of a sudden you've got kids from what you would think is a normal family that are sitting at your dinner table, having dinner with you every night, and living in terror and anxiety because they are literally trapped. And then unless they keep sending images, they're living in fear that I'm going to, you know, they're going to kill my parents, my brother, my sister, whatever it might be. And just the fear of this image of me naked, and many images are out there and they're uploaded and sold onto porn sites. I mean, it is happening in America. It is happening all over the world all the time. Overseas, often we'll use a country like Greece, which is a destination country. They'll go into countries, Romania, Albania, Moldova, Uzbekistan, pick any country that is third world, abject poverty. And, you know, they'll put an ad, who wants a job? You could be a waitress in a Greek island. You can, you know, and it makes it sound very legitimate. So then you think, of course I do. Then these guys will go into villages. They're like recruiters, but they're pretending like I'm a job recruiter. I can help you fill out this paperwork. So the girl then even gets a formal working visa because it's called organized crime because it's very organized. And so, and then they don't even know. So they've got their visa, they get on a plane, they're coming, and all this is paid for because it's like, you know, you're going to come over and we're going to get a job. You can pay us back from your paycheck. So they land in Greece and then straight away, okay, they don't know the language, they know nothing. They've come from abject poverty. They think they're going to be sending money back home. They're going to be helping their families. And without even they're taken. Literally, they hand over their passport. They think they're being helped. So they're like, yeah, the person there is like, give me your documents and I'm going to help you. They're put in the back of a car. They're taken to a apartment, often some form of breaking house, where then they are raped multiple times. Oftentimes, the trafficker will wear a law enforcement, maybe a police officer uniform. They're not police officers, but they'll wear the uniform. So now you think you're a young woman. You've come from a village. You're suddenly in a country, you don't speak the language, you've got no papers, you don't even know what's happened to you. Some guy is raping you 20 times a day and beating you, not giving you food. He's wearing a police officer uniform. I mean, you think you're done. And so out of that, without the girls even realizing it, you know, they're beginning to be sold. You want to get out of this, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to sleep with this guy. And that could be up to 40 men a day, 40 times a day. And the girl is broken and then she's taken. I mean, I just came back before this interview. I just flew back in from Greece and Bulgaria. And at the moment, there's a lot of South American girls that are being brought in, and they're being trafficked, and they're in 2-week cycles, and they're servicing up to 60 men a day, which people think, how is this even possible? And it's a huge thing. They're in for 15 days, then they'll take them out of the country, and then bring them back into the country so that they don't get caught. There's like a 15-day window to do with immigration, and it is so organized and so evil. Then you go down to Thailand and Cambodia and you're talking children, 3, 4, 5 years old.
Jesus.
6, you know, we've got a child in our care that is 18 months old with a broken pelvis. You don't even want to think what was done to that child. And so, you know, you will go down a street in Pattaya and they will hand you out menus with the most graphic pictures of what a 6-year-old can do to you, what a 10-year-old will do to you, what a 12-year-old. And then you go down certain streets and the streets are like, down this street is all 4 to 8-year-olds. Down this street is 8 to 12-year-olds. Down this street, and you pay accordingly to what you want to do. It is sickening.
We don't know what to say. What do you say?
Yeah,
what do you say?
It's hard to listen to. It's hard to know. And even while we were there, you probably, I was so impressed with your team that you and Nick had. I was so impressed with the acumen, the intelligence, the loyalty, the passion in which they served, but they still continually communicated to us how very difficult it is to intervene and prosecute and really stop this. And like I said, all of it was eye-opening to me, because the taken image is the image.
Yeah.
You get kidnapped, you get forcibly, you know, this happens to you. But the whole psychological and emotional torture that these young ladies are put through, or young children are put through.
And you said that is why it's hard to prosecute, is because they chose to come, because they thought they were coming to work.
Yeah, and you're trying to, you know, in some of these countries where we started, there wasn't even a law against trafficking. So you can't prosecute something that's not a crime.
No law.
So we had to start right at the beginning of changing laws and then educating law enforcement and showing them how to spot it. Because you imagine, and people watching this would be the same, you think every girl just wants to be in a brothel. She's choosing to do that. Like, people think that. And so often the trafficker would get off and the girl would be put in prison, and yet she was the one that was being trafficked. And so it takes a lot of education, especially in countries like in Greece, where prostitution is legal and a rite of passage for a young boy is at 13, his grandmother will take him to a brothel. Like, it's just part of culture. I mean, talk about the Book of Corinth. It's like Corinthians still living in action. And here is the deal. Now, it doesn't just have to be in Greece. All over the world, with the sexual perversion in the world and all of the sexual confusion, I mean, it's just all messed up. Yeah. And so that fine line of like, okay, how do you prosecute this? How do you know who's in it of their own volition and who's not? And so it takes a lot of education and training to show how people are really psychological, trapped in. You can form Stockholm syndrome with your trafficker, because it's just predicated on fear and violence. And so, but the fact is, we are turning it around. You know, there are people being rescued all the time. And I think we've got we do have a very holistic approach to reaching the vulnerable, you know, rescuing the victim and restoring survivors. So our approach is holistic. And for me, that's deeply personal, because, you know, Hope, here I was, you know, I was born in Australia, but I was left in a hospital unnamed and unwanted, and I was sexually abused for 12 years. If I wasn't born in Australia, where there's a rule of law and a proper adoption system, I could be one of the kids that I'm rescuing. Because if I was in one of these other countries, I would have been left, you know, I could have been left in an orphanage. And this happens all the time. A trafficker will go in, pretend that they're a relative, or, you know, and that's my kid. And then they take them and they end up trafficking them. You know, there are trafficking rings where they'll get the girls pregnant in brothels and then sell the babies into pedophile rings. And they're called infant farms. It's like, it's unbelievable what is happening out there.
I think another thing bothersome to me as a minister, as a preacher who has a message of the kingdom, which is supposed to be a counterculture to all the cultures that are at hand. It's especially troubling for me to think that we've had, while we've built the biggest churches ever in history, culture has never deteriorated faster.
Wow.
Which tells me that we're very good at building organizations, but we're very poor at transforming culture. And here's the thing that bothers me. If there were no appetite for this, there would be no business. And it tells me that there's a huge worldwide appetite for something perverted. And as soon as we started, not trying to take it spiritual, but as soon as we as a society started affirming small perversions, I told Hope, I said, watch out. I said, because every spirit has fruit. And I said, you're not just going to get this. I said, there's a perverted spirit behind it. You're going to open the door to it all. And when you affirm one part of it, you're going to open the door to every conceivable perversion that is imaginable. And that is what we're listening to from you and what is happening right in front of our eyes. A perverted spirit has been not only identified, but affirmed in many societies. And now we're having to deal with the fruit of it. And it's going to be a massive cleanup, Miss Christine.
And
No, you're right. But you see, you guys are rare in that even you are willing to talk about it. And Ron, you as a man, I've always said, I remember when I first started to talk about it in churches, at first there was a little bit of resistance. And I would think, the thing that drives this more than anything is the porn industry. Yeah. That's what drives this. And I would always think, what are you trying to hide? Like why would you not want people to be aware so that we can stop this unless there's something going on in your own life,
right?
And you don't want this to be, given any airtime. And I think we have to deal with that truly as believers and go, okay, what maybe is going on in my own life that needs to stop because it is enabling it, and we don't want to do the link between porn and sex trafficking. But I'm like, it is the driver. It's a supply and demand issue.
Right.
And because the porn industry is so out of control, but it's not just non-believers that are consuming that stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that's why there has been a little bit, people get a bit weird when it gets into the sex trafficking thing. We think, okay, if it's labor trafficking, we all think that labor trafficking is wrong and people shouldn't be, forced to work without pay. But then we'd have to look at all of our own lives and go, what are the images we're watching? What are the things we're participating in? Because it is enabling sex trafficking.
Absolutely. And, I think the church, too, sometimes would look at something, and even hearing this in 25 minutes, hearing how big, how organized, how hard it is to break into, the church would say, man, it's so big. And so we turn our head. I can't do anything about it. I can't help this. But there is something we can do. I mean, it's just like how we opened up today and you were talking about the Good Samaritan. It's just being willing to do something.
That's it.
You can't stop it all. I don't think we can ever stop it all. But if you save one and the next week you save another, and if you can't save them yourself, you can give money to organizations like A21 who have given their life, who employ how many people in 19 different offices who are giving their life to grab people out of darkness and pull them into light. And what I love about what you do is you don't just get them out of the organization, you rehabilitate their mind. You are steadily pouring into these girls and helping them to integrate back into society.
And if it's possible, even restore families.
Yes. Yeah. It's just such a powerful organization.
Yeah. No, we can make a difference. I mean, listen, if we believers don't have hope, who can have hope? I mean, why are we out there trying to, preach the gospel into all the world? I'm not overwhelmed by the numbers because I'm like, are you kidding me? We've always been in it for the one. I mean, whether that's why we preach, that's why we do what we do, is like you're believing that God's going to transform hearts. So I think we of all people should be hope-filled and faith-filled people, because without Jesus, there is no hope. But by the power of the Holy Spirit, are you kidding me? We can change this.
Absolutely. And I love that about you, Christine, is that everything you do, you're preaching, you traveling all over the world preaching, not just because you're a great preacher, but because it is your mandate and your mission to raise money this is why you live. Yeah. This is why you preach. You preaching to, there's thousands and thousands of great preachers, but you, Christine, are doing it so that you can fund this ministry, A21. I want you to tell people how, if they're listening, they say, man, I can't quit my job. I can't go to Cambodia, but I sure would love to partner with you. Tell people how they can do that.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Well, if you go to a21.org, there's great ways that you can give and get involved in from where you are. The thing is, we don't need everyone stopping their jobs. This needs to have a very, very thought through, organized way of dealing with this. And, we'd all like to get, I remember that night when we were in Athens and we're on the bus and the images were horrific. And Ron's like, you know what? I got about 10 guys in South Carolina. We can just
Ron's like, we can take care of these guys.
Let me set the setting. I'm a big burly guy from the South, and they were riding us down streets and saying, "You see that light right there?
Yeah,
that means this."
People
and that
are being trafficked right in that wall, right in that door.
I think there was a police officer, I think at that time, who was on the shuttle bus with us, and I was like, why can't we go kick down the door and go get the girl? You know, but that's, you know, that's not realistic. That's not the way the world works, and that's not the answer to the problem. But you do I have a lot of protective instincts as a man over my wife, with my daughter, with my children, and the fact that a few yards from me, those atrocities were taking place, that was difficult for me to deal with.
Yeah. And I understand that, Lisa. Nick feels exactly the same way. But if, you know, for every girl you kick a door down and take, of course it's all valid, but there's 100 more that are going to come. We've got to stop the system from enabling it to happen. So we've got to work with law enforcement. We've got to work with governments. And so actually the best thing you can do is give to organizations like that and say, okay, you've got we've got world-class people, lawyers.
You do.
I mean, I'm not just saying that. They are world-class. They are. In their industry. And so if you go to A21.org, there's things you can do that can, you know, where you are from your job that you don't even need to leave, that you can contact your congressman, you can do this. We give you very tangible things, what you can do where you are. And of course, always giving helps the whole thing happen. So that's at A21.org.
Yes, and our church, Redemption, has committed, starting this year, we started giving to your ministry every month. And I just wish any pastors or leaders or businessmen who, you know, God's blessed your business, and you say, I've been looking for somewhere to give. I would encourage you. We know Nick and Chris Caine, and I mean, we're not BFFs, but we almost are. We almost are.
But here's the thing: we went and saw it.
Yes,
we didn't. It's not just they told us about it. We got on a plane. We went over the pond, and we got on shuttle buses and let their team take us running. We saw how
absolutely.
It worked.
So we trust them. We believe in them. These are quality people, and I just am so thankful, Christine, for what you've given your life to, and I know that you have a great, great reward in heaven. You know, when you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto Him, and it's not glamorous. It's not a glamorous ministry. It's none of that, but it is raw. It's real. It is. It's happening, and I so thank you. And thank you for taking your time to come educate people in our sphere of influence, and we are just so grateful for what you do.
Well, and also I'm going to put a plug in right here. Miss Christine Caine is going to be April 21st. 20th and 21st. She'll be here on the 21st, Friday night.
San Jose.
At our 212 in San Jose here at our West Coast campus. And a large portion that night of the offering that is taken up, we are going to give to A21. So I just want all you guys to be a part, not just to hear a great word. And I'm going to put a plug in, not just be with a great church, because I believe these people are amazing, but also what you give that night in your generosity is going to reach people that you yourself would never be able to touch. And so we're grateful for you.
Christine, any final words? Anything going on in your life you want to educate the people on?
No, I'm so grateful that it just makes me so excited that you kind of are giving this a space. So I want to say thank you from Nick and I. We love you all. Like, we just love you all. And what can I say? How can I not do this? I don't feel like a hero. Listen, when the Lord tells you you're more like the Levite and the priest than the Samaritan, it's more of a kick up the butt. You know,
but you did something about it. And I think that's the call to action today, is that, you know, we can't, everyone listening probably won't be able to leave our jobs, like you said, and that's not what you're asking us to do, but the awareness, and especially families with these young teenage girls in your house.
Be careful.
Don't, you know, monitor what they are doing on the internet. Monitor what they are doing.
Because I feel like telling parents when they're like, well, Christine, it's their phone. I'm like, honey, you're paying for it. So you can put it on their phone, you know.
Exactly right.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We love you. We love A21 and can't wait to be with you.
Love you all.
Love
Thank
you too. Until next time, it's Ron and Hope Unfiltered, real, raw, and relevant.
See you guys.